On today's episode, there's a lot of expectations for the Denver Nuggets this year. Is that right? It's probably right. What are the Nuggets going to do? How are these Nuggets going to react? How are these players going to react in what is a very, very volatile season here at Locked On Nuggets?
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning in today's episode where we're going live, we're going often, doing our best on this off-season content. Happy August to everybody as we fully transition into this deep off-season. Matt, the most important thing that's probably going to come out of August this year is the schedule will probably drop in the middle of the month. That's my expectation. It's probably about August 15th, August 20th.
Yep, should be right. I think sometimes it's been earlier, sometimes it's been like the 9th, but I would expect it to be the week of that 15th that you were referring to. I would expect it to be not on the 15th, probably either the 14th or 12th is when they'll probably drop it.
He is Matt Moore of HP Basketball. Make sure to go check out the Action Network, the Denver Dig, the Substacks, everything in between. I'm Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports and the Pickaxe and Roll podcast. Make sure to go check out both of our stuff as well as Swipa's stuff on the Swipacam and Players Choice channels as well. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com/LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first year. Folks, we're going to talk about a variety of things on today's episode. Later, we're going to go over kind of like the free agency pool has definitely slowed down in terms of a whole bunch of guys that we would expect to have signed by now. I want to ask Matt whether he's surprised about various guys not signing yet. Fair expectations for Bruce Brown. Everybody assumes Bruce Brown's just going to slide right into that 6-man role. It's going to be easy as cake. What are we thinking about that and whether that's actually going to happen? But first and foremost, Matt, I led off with Jokic is one of the most steady players in league history, I would guess, from what you're expecting on a night-to-night basis, and especially over the course of these last 5 years. Aaron Gordon, I feel like, is a very steady player when he's healthy. Christian Brown, you know what you're going to get. But I wanted to ask you, and I wanted to ask kind of the chat as well, who they think the boom or bust Nuggets are this season that could either take Denver into a championship caliber year, or kind of sink the ship. And you don't want to put it all on one player or two players or anything like that. That's not the goal of the assignment, but these are the players with the highest level of volatility. Who do you think has the highest level of volatility on this year's Denver Nuggets roster?
Oh, it's a great question. I think, look, I expect it to boom, but I'm going to say Cam Johnson.
Ooh, interesting.
So the biggest reason is Cam is having to come in and adapt immediately to playing around Nikola. And KCP was able to do that, and Bruce was able to do that, and that worked out awesome. But some guys take a while, and I think Cam is absolutely kind of very sharp basketball IQ guy, very thoughtful with how he approaches the game. That's going to get it. But also, if he doesn't shoot well, and we're in January, and I'm having to be yeah, but look at all these other things that he's doing, and he's been really good at this and all the other, and he's shooting 35% from three, then you and I are going to be arguing about him on the show, and people are going to be frustrated because Mike shot 40% pretty much every year. He shot 39% or better almost every year. And so he's going to have to make those shots on top of having to adjust. So that one I do think is kind of like a boom or bust, because if it booms, then it's going to be oh my God, not only are the starters better, but the bench minutes are better. All of those things are better. And so it is a huge differential here of they were good enough to win a title with Michael Porter Jr. If they are better with him, with Cam Johnson, what does that mean? And I want to kind of give that one because the easy ones are the young guys. It's Peyton and Julian. That's the easy ones, I think, to say.
I don't even know if it's the easiest ones for me. I feel like the two easiest ones are Jamal Murray and Bruce Brown. And I know that that's going to, like, last week I did an episode about Jamal Murray being now underrated for the Nuggets, and I think that is true. But I also know that, like, the wide range of outcomes with him is kind of how I envision it, where he could, like, there is still a world where he is an all-star for the Denver Nuggets and has solidified things, is leading the bench unit, is allowing Jokic to get rest, things like that. There's still a world where that happens, and that is the case. Is it the likely world? I don't think so. I think that there's also a world where he's injured for the entire season, or he's a little bit hampered, or there's some definite things that are holding him back, and maybe holding the Nuggets back from being the level that they need to be. And a lot of it stems from, hey, you had the 2-man game with Jamal and Nikola that kind of, like, there were some great factors in 2024 that definitely helped, but also some things that really hurt Denver from that ceiling, from that side of things, especially in that Timberwolves series. But you were kind of beholden to whether those guys were going to be at their best or not in that particular season. And ultimately, they weren't. So, and this is more of a Jamal thing than a Nikola thing that year, but I do think that there's a lot of pressure riding on Jamal still, especially after you trade Michael Porter Jr. And the natural inclination for a lot of people, and has been over the, especially when you get to the reaction that happened from that episode last week, is there are still a lot of people that are like, okay, now that Mike's gone, we're going to turn all of our frustrations and all of our potential issues onto Jamal Murray.
Yeah, but I think it's more of like the fan reaction, right? If we're talking about how far they can go, like, Jamal's going to miss between 15 and 20 games, and he's going to give you 21 and 6.
Yeah.
If he does better than that, then it's an exceptional year, and that's great. If he does significantly worse than that, if it's like 20 and 4, then something went badly wrong. But I don't really think you can expect that. Like, I don't know how Jamal can be a boom or bust player when he is, at this point, very consistent 21 and 6. Like, that's who he is. He's going to have a couple nights of 35. He's going to have a couple nights of 15. He's going to have a couple of stretches of bad shooting. He's going to have a couple of months of playing great. And, like, that's who he is. I don't know that he's like a boom or bust player, because I do think that he is consistent in, and the problem is, like, his consistent level is never high enough. His overall average consistent level is not high enough for what fans want.
Yeah. And that's honestly fair. Honestly, the way that you described him, kind of how I view Cam Johnson coming into the season, where there will be a couple of games where he goes over 30. There'll be a couple of games where he goes under 10, and it's mostly going to be in that 15 to 20 range for the vast majority of the season, based off of the opportunity that he gets and the gravity that he pulls just from that small forward spot.
Can I hit this?
Sure.
So CJ Scratch Torres says, all the pressure is on Murray now. If you don't perform, then it's time to ship him off. What does that mean? Right? Because people were really frustrated with him when he averaged 21 and 6. He missed time with a hamstring injury, struggled, but made several key shots versus the Lakers. Had what I would say 5 bad games versus the Wolves, and his last, like 2 of his last 3 were really good. Maybe 5 bad games total, 4, but like game 5, game 7 were good in the Wolves series. And then he was good last year. I don't know how you really complain about him in the playoffs.
I went back and looked at it, by the way. Playoffs were way better than I remember.
Unless you're just using it to prop up one other guy, like some people, then I think you have to be kind of happy with it. So the question is, like, what does that look like if he doesn't perform?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Right. Because, and I will also say, I'm not going to be on here being like, you got to get rid of him. If Jamal suffers a significant injury, guys get hurt. I'm kind of done with blaming guys and about stuff that we don't know about.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm kind of done with it. I don't have any expertise in understanding what a player's conditioning level should be or how it impacts their injury status. If I want to be an expert in that, I need to go to school for a long time. I'm not going to do that because I'm 43.
Pivoting to Julian Strother and Peyton Watson really quickly. Those guys, I think their roles are still unsettled in terms of what the expectation should be for them heading into the season. You had some vets like Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., Jonas Valanciunas. Those guys are expected to play and probably expected to play pretty significant minutes off of the bench. What does it look like if those guys boom or bust from a role perspective in Denver?
Julian can bust, and it will be very quiet. It'll just be like, yeah, he never really got there.
Yeah.
Like he had that moment in that game in the playoffs, and then just like he never really got there. If he booms, then it's going to be very interesting because it's going to be like, okay, they've got Jamal and Christian and Bruce and Julian. Okay. Is that like it? Or like, is that settle? Is he fourth guard? Does he move past Bruce? Right? Like, what if he becomes like a really elite, a top level scoring threat? I think Julian's got I still am very high on Julian Strother. I still think he's got a lot. But if he doesn't play well, it's just gonna be like, yeah, Julian kind of soaks up the rest of the minutes. He's just kind of there. Versus Peyton Watson, I think it's gonna be a lot louder, because if you just kind of look at where the roster construction leads you, I think Peyton's gonna play in a lot of different spots this year, and that's not always a good thing. I don't know exactly what his role is. So like, if he's just the backup three, great. But he's gonna the big thing with Peyton is he's gonna figure out something that he is great at. Like Julian, I can tell you, like Julian is awesome at floaters. Like that's what he's great at. He needs to get the shot down, which I think will come. I have no reason to think he's not gonna be a great shooter. But like Peyton, I need to know like what's he great at offensively. And defensively, what are the guys where it's like you can put him on him and he's going to lock him up? It's great. It's awesome to have the highlight blocks. That's great. That's terrific. I need guys that it's like, no. You can play Peyton on him and he will lock him up.
Yeah.
He's got to be. I have to know what the elite stuff that Peyton Watson does.
He has ranged so much over the course of his first like 3 years in the NBA, from what I expected him to turn into to what people are telling me that he is versus what he actually has become. I'm still very unsure in terms of what to expect from him on a night-to-night basis. Okay, when we come back, we're going to expand upon Bruce Brown a little bit. Talk about, hey, is six-man role fair for Bruce Brown? What are we expecting from him on the other side here at Locked On Nuggets? All right, let us talk about Monarch Money. You ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing all of your money, you're also building wealth. One thing that I definitely need help with is subscriptions. I'm subscribed to so many different things in trying to become the best version of the podcasting and streaming and some overall like personal interests. I've subscribed to too many different things that kind of help boost those little stuff. Monarch Money definitely helps identify those problems, helps take them out a little bit, and helps really outline what I can afford and what I can't afford. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. All right, back at it, Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit that like button, folks. Hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. Matt, one of the reasons why I'm a little bit curious about Bruce Brown's actual role with Denver is because everybody, I think, assumes that he's going to just replace either Russell Westbrook from this past year and what Russ provided on a consistent basis, or he's just going to replicate what he did back in 2022-23, where he averaged about 28 minutes a game, was a pivotal piece of Denver's rotation, started at point guard, shooting guard, small forward, you name it, did everything, was very good. But there's been 2 years since that happened. He's been in 3 different destinations: Indiana, Toronto, New Orleans. I'm curious for you, are you just expecting him to pick up where he left off, or is there a growing period that you're expecting?
No, I kind of expect to see him pick up where he left off regular season wise. And if we remember, There was a little bit of burbling in the media room about Bruce throughout the year. He had a really great November, but then there were all these stretches where like he wasn't shooting well and the defense wasn't great. And I wasn't trying to single you out, but yes.
Oh no, I did it. I was like, hey, you could be better. Could be better at some of these things.
And then he was just like ready to go for the playoffs, and it was
Lights
like very clear that he was a 16 gamer. I think the other thing with Bruce is there are types of players who do not excel when the team is bad. And what's funny is if you look at his BPM chart, EPM, any of the advanced metrics on him, right? I prefer EPM. It goes like starts off, he's a negative in Detroit. And then in 2020, Detroit was actually a little bit better that season. And it gets a little bit better. And then he goes to Brooklyn and they're actually like competing. And so he gets better and better and better. And then he goes to Denver. And because he was playing with the bench minutes a lot, he goes down a little bit. And then he craters. So it looks like this, it just looks like a bell curve. And that he's past his prime and that's it. It's bad. But if you look at it through the prism of bad team, okay team, good teams, bad teams, it makes a lot more sense. Then you're like, okay. Now, like a lot of this I do think is going to be dependent on, well, I guess here's a good question, Ryan. What if the offense or the non-Joker minutes is better because of the additions that they've made with Valanciunas, I guess THJ, Julian progressing, different lineup combinations, Cam able to stagger. If that's better, does that take the pressure off of Bruce for having to be able to make shots? Can he be a plus in his minutes, even if he doesn't have a great offensive year?
Oh, yeah. Like, okay. I think that there's an absolute world where, like, even Jamal staggers with the second unit. And, like, there's a world where Bruce doesn't even have to play some nights, which is wild. He will. Like, that's the expectation. He's not going to not play. But I think that there's at least a world where Denver has 11 guys, and he could end up being the 11th if Julian Strawther is as good as you think he can be.
Yeah. He shot 65% at the rim in 2023. And to me, that's like very indicative of just like, hey, when Bruce doesn't have anyone else to make things easy, Bruce is probably going to struggle a little bit in finishing. Like you watched it, like he was having to like, they were having him go out there with the Pelicans, like go on out there and fill up the minutes while we tank our faces off.
Yeah.
Right. So those numbers just aren't really indicative of anything. You don't have an opportunity to really show what you can do. He was fine in Indiana, but they needed Pascal, right? And then Toronto was just tanking, and then New Orleans was tanking. And so there wasn't really this opportunity for him to actually like contribute in meaningful ways. Now, the 3-point shot I think is interesting because look, in 2022, the year before he joined Denver, he shot 40% from three. And that was an outlier season based off of the rest of his career. He had one season where he shot that way. Then he goes to Denver and he shoots 35.8%. But here's the thing, 35.8% is fine. Like if Bruce just goes back to being a 35 to 36% shooter, if he's just average, no problem. That's great. That's awesome. Because his steal rate's still very high. Like that second unit's still gonna be thieving. Like they're still gonna be getting a high number of steals. And honestly, like Bruce being able to replicate that Russell Westbrook component is really significant because Russell's really good at generating steals. And if Bruce is able to generate those steals and they just have a little bit of a better floor offensively, then they're going to be in a pretty good position, I think, to capitalize. The other thing I will tell you, because I'm working on a thing for the dig about Jonas Valanciunas, is I was surprised at how many things differently JV can do. Because I was kind of like, oh, you can operate the pinch post and like do like a little bit out of that. And like, sure, you could post him up. And instead I'm like, no, like you should be posting him up pretty consistently. Like you can duplicate it even more, I think, of the offense than I thought you could with Joker. You can duplicate a lot of that. Now, again, no one is Joker, especially not Jonas Valanciunas. But just being like, hey, my big guy is going to absolutely kill you if you don't double him because you're running a small ball unit. So you better double. JV reads it every single time. And Bruce will kill those mechanisms. Like there are all these plays I watched with JV last year where it's Keon Ellis cutting down the lane and getting easy stuff. And Bruce Brown can do that. Yeah. So I am very confident that Bruce is a guy where, you need to make it easy on him. But there's also players who it's not good for them. Like, they're not good at the easy stuff. They need it to be hard and difficult and be moderately successful at inherently low efficiency shots. I think Bruce is going to be able to pick it back up. Now, I could be wrong, and that's gonna be a bummer if it's true. Like, if Bruce just is more like the guy he's been the last 2 years, it's gonna suck. But they also have Julian, and they have alternatives, and they have Jalen. Like, Jalen played well the back half of the season, so they're not sunk if Bruce Brown is in fact washed.
There's a world where he is. I don't expect that to actually be the world that we live in. I do think that he's going to be very good. It's one of the reasons why I'm high on Denver, is because you want somebody that can both operate on the ball and off the ball, have some defensive consistency. What's up?
Well, I'm just curious, after the experience last time, right? Because I do think this is like an interesting situation. If he struggles, like, how much of a benefit of the doubt are you going to give him, right? Because, like, I do this too much where I'm like, he'll be fine. And then it's like, narrator, he was not fine. And I think you too often are kind of like, oh no, I'm just saying, shooting 32% for 3 over the last 3 weeks. And I think we're both kind of, we go to those extremes. So I am kind of curious about your analysis approach on Bruce as well as the other guys, Tim Hardaway Jr., anybody new coming in, as far as like what kind of benefit of the doubt you're going to provide them.
I'll need to see some positives. If it's entirely negative, if it's where nothing is going right, you are not playing well in any way, shape, or form, I can't at least like pick out something that you're doing well, then yeah, I'm going to probably blow the whistle a little bit. But in terms of like, if Bruce is at least cutting and finishing well and operating in pick and roll or DHOs with Jonas Valanciunas, it's going to be okay if he shoots 29% from 3 for a month. Like, I'm not going to be that concerned about that. If he is doing that for 3 months, then we'll start to have some conversations. But in terms of just immediately reacting negatively, no, I think for the entire team, honestly, I'm feeling pretty good in that the expectation that I have is that I'm going to be a little bit less, like, lower maintenance on this particular roster, because I just believe that they've done the right thing. Whereas last year I did not. So
you also need it. You also need a break from stressing about them nightly.
Yeah, it would be great. I would like to, if there's anything that we could get for this year, it'd be for Ryan to just not stress about the Nuggets from day to day. Okay. When we come back, we're going to talk about some free agents and some guys that have not signed in the NBA this year, including Russell Westbrook. What's going on? Why have they not signed yet? Is Matt surprised about it? We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets. All right, let's talk about 5-Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. I mean, let's be honest. Some days on the course, on or off, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. My brother just went and played a full 18 this afternoon, shot a nice little 82. He's getting better. And one of the best ways to kind of maintain that and stay with that is to have some good energy, get some good energy behind it, especially late in the afternoon when you might be flagging a little bit. Brings that 5-hour energy with him, makes it very easy. Golf, it's all about the good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape, ginger, lime flavor gives your best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to go through and power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets. All right, back at it. Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Matt, there are so many free agents. I'm looking at this list. Actually, our mutual Mark Stein over at the Stein Line put out an article this afternoon, and he does it every Sunday. And he listed a variety of free agents and kind of his own takes on where some of these guys went. But the list and the degree to how good some of these players were really surprised me, because a lot is being held up in two different mechanisms: restricted free agency and the Golden State Warriors. Those two are both very important within the context of today's NBA. So I wanted to ask you about a variety of different guys. Like, why do you think some of these three restricted free agents, Josh Giddey, Quentin Grimes, Jonathan Kuminga, why are these guys not getting deals right now in this modern NBA?
I think fans are probably sick of hearing about it from us, but there's no way around it. It's the new CBA. So the owners built in a system where spending doesn't make team building sense. And it took things like restricted free agency, which used to be like, look, we probably, like, he's a good player. He could be great. We don't want to make him mad. Like Gordon Hayward got really pissed off when they made him go look for a deal, and then he left as soon as he could because of that decision. Like Hayward talked about it. Like, you poisoned the well, but that's now worth it because of the salary constraints. If you would get anybody, if you get any good players on discount deals, you are ahead of where a lot of teams are. This is one of the good things about what the Lakers did. I wrote a whole thing on the Lakers this weekend, and it's going out on Tuesday. And basically it's like, look, DeAndre Ayton was released for a reason. Marcus Smart was released for a reason. Jake LaRavia was available for a reason, but they got them all for a combined 19 million AAV. And that's really valuable. Is having three playable guys at 19 million combined is really helpful.
Yeah.
Likewise, if you are able to squeeze these guys and they're not franchise players, which none of them are, why not? Because you can just keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing until they get to the number that you're like, this is appropriate and this fits with our timeline constraints, where we want to be financially in X year to make Y bid on whatever free agent, or to be able to do this, that, or the other. It just makes it easier rather than being like, we're going to pay through the nose just to keep you happy. It's no longer what they want. So, like, because to me, it's like, look, is Josh Giddey worth keeping happy at the expense of getting him on a cheaper deal? No. Is Jonathan Kuminga worth it? Absolutely not. Under no circumstances. Is Cam Thomas worth that? No, but the Nets have kind of gone a little too far. Like they're pushing this, I think, a little too far, because Cam's actually, if you compare him with a lot of guys, it's like, oh, Cam's actually better.
Yeah.
So like they're pushing it a little far, but this is going to be, I think, the new standard. These areas where it's like you could squeeze them for money, but you don't, those are now going to be like, well, now we do, I think.
I'm not surprised by it, obviously. Like, there's so many. One of the things that really stands out with this CBA is that every contract that you're signing that is not for a superstar player is automatically preventative from the next contract that you could sign for a star player, a superstar player, or getting the next good value. It's just unfortunately how it works. Like,
my thing though is like, I don't know that I think the days of grabbing at stars is over.
Oh, clearly. I mean, nobody's going to free agency anymore.
I just think it's like one guy at 40 to 50, another guy at 30, and then you're going to have to drop down to 20 or less for everybody else. Like the Magic are absolutely going to get squeezed.
Yeah.
They're 100% going to get squeezed. You know, I think the Grizzlies are going to have tough conversations because they got two guys on maxes. Like, I'm just not sure. It used to be like, how can you get 3 stars? And now I'm like, I don't know if you can afford 2. Like, that's why, like, and I mean, Denver's going to face the same problem, right? I mean, if there's anything that ends Jamal's time here, it's not going to be fans' outrage over his shooting splits when he has pretty good shooting splits, but people are in those comments are complaining. Like, he's an inconsistent shooter. The numbers disagree with you. I think like Jamal, that's going to be like a pressure point down the line. It's just like, look, can we really have 110 million wrapped on 2 guys, even as the salary cap increases? Can we really do that? And I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah. And just because when you're talking about, and Grace says it here, you got to start talking.
Yeah. I know, Grace. I'm just, when I say 50 to 40 to 50, all I'm saying is that percentage of the cap. Like I am putting it at this current level at that level mark, right? In a couple of years, I'll be like one guy at 60 to 70 until these numbers start to go down.
It's one guy on the fun max, as Brian Windhorst would call it, one guy on the big max, and a whole bunch of role players.
Yeah, that's a much better way to describe it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear percentages here, Grace. They were told they were beat no math.
Yeah, it's, as somebody who like does pretty well with math, it is borderline sociopathic to try to deal with it from an NBA cap perspective. Other free agents, and we'll hit these guys quick before we get out of here. The Warriors guys, Kuminga's obviously holding up stuff, but you've mentioned this before. Al Horford, DeAnthony Melton, Gary Payton II, all probably going back to the Warriors. And then if you get Kuminga back there, then their roster suddenly goes from 9 to 13.
Boring. Everything's boring. I'm so bored with the Warriors.
There
are names on this list I think are really interesting. Malcolm Brogdon.
I'd love him here.
Is it just an injury thing? It's got to be just the injuries.
I mean, he's clearly good enough to play still.
Yeah.
That's not the question.
That
Ben Simmons is available.
Celtics are interested there. You know what's funny? It's really funny to me that Chris Boucher is still available. That the Nuggets were like, there's all this talk of the Nuggets potentially trading for Boucher, and Chris Boucher is just out there as an unrestricted free agent, just like hanging.
And they've got an open roster spot. Like if the interest was in fact real, then I mean it probably was real, but he was just the version of the player that they were going to go for if they couldn't get Valanciunas. Probably
there's so many good names. Precious Achiuwa,
Trey Lyles is still out there.
Trey Lyles, DJ's still out there, which makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Believe me, he's going to go James Johnson. Like that's the route that you're probably going now.
Russ, notably.
Yeah, I mean, where do you think Russ ends up? Is it still Sacramento?
Yeah, probably. DeLon Wright?
DeLon Wright would be a great 15th man kind of guy. Somebody that if he was okay not playing every single night, he would probably contribute to a pretty good culture.
The guy I want someone to pick up, not the Nuggets, just in general, is Taylor Horton Tucker. He's good. I'm telling you, he does stuff. He just does stuff.
Yeah,
I like where Taylor Horton Tucker is taking his game, and he is not getting enough opportunity. Wait, is Caleb Houston still unsigned?
I think so.
Oh God, somebody needs to go get him.
He's a shooter, isn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of surprising that shooters don't get picked up like that. Like usually all of them do.
Hawks are reportedly set to sign him for a 1-year deal.
Okay, well, Hawks have been doing a lot of smart things. So
I knew I'd heard something from him. Jeremiah Robinson Earl, that's a good 15th man. Torrey Craig. Bring him home.
To me, that's one that if Peyton Watson contract extension talks don't work out and you trade him before the season, then Torrey Craig is the perfect replacement.
You think really? Okay, that's wow. I'm actually
what
you would, if you don't get an extension with Peyton, you'd rather do that than just squeeze him in restricted free agency.
I don't know. Like, obviously Peyton is still extremely like he is a high ceiling player to the point where you could see him being a starter in the NBA, and it's one of the reasons why Denver should try to hold on to him. However, we've seen this happen with the Nuggets before, where rather than deal with a potential headache throughout the year for a guy like Bones Highland was this way, like you get guys that are in line with the direction that you're going, or you move on, and that's at least something that they have done in the past. I think that Peyton Watson is like in line with what they want to do. I think that he's actually going to be very good this year. But if he is unwilling to sign for a number, I think the Nuggets should just offer him like 4 years, $48 million. Like that should be the number. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this on Wednesday, because this is fascinating that we are on different sides of this. This is interesting. We'll talk about it on Wednesday's show. Tuesday night, actually.
Okay. Are we doing Tuesday night? I don't remember.
We're doing Tuesday night. We have a new schedule. I'll send it to you again.
Okay. I have it. I just haven't looked at it in a while. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Who are your most polarizing players for the Denver Nuggets this upcoming season? Let us know after this week's episode of Locked On Nuggets.